Hey guys, so today I want to talk about fire sprinkler systems in residential homes. Lately, we've been doing a lot more of them, and that's only because some of the cities that we build in have lowered the threshold of size that a house needs to be to have a fire sprinkler system. In this video, I want to talk about the reason most people don't think about doing fire suppression or fire sprinkler systems in their homes, why most builders don't think about talking to their customers about it, and why I, as a builder, have kind of evolved my thoughts over the years from that's some expensive thing that's only required for huge mansions to maybe it's something everybody ought to start thinking about when they build a custom home, regardless of the size. So in this video, I want to go through, talk about some of the myths that I think cause people to not want to do these in the first place, and some of the reasons I think it would be wise to consider putting one in your home. Okay, so one of the first reasons it isn't a myth, well, maybe a little bit, that people don't think to do these in their houses is just cost, right? Hey, I don't want to do a fire suppression system or fire sprinkler system in my house because, my gosh, that's going to cost me $50,000. I can't afford that. That's not actually the case. These systems are not overly expensive. You generally, in houses like I'm in here, should be able to get a system from possibly under $10,000 to maybe pushing $20,000. Obviously, the larger the house gets, the more heads it needs and all that, the more expensive it's going to be. But they aren't as outrageously expensive as people think they are. Now, there are a couple other upgrades you should do or you have to do when you're doing a fire sprinkler system in a house. You have to go with a 1-inch water meter. A lot of times people won't go with a 1-inch, although a lot of customers I build for want a 1-inch anyways because they get more water flow that way. Maybe you have swimming pools and things like that. So you have to make sure you have a 1-inch water meter. Other than that, the only other thing I would say is hooking up your fire sprinkler system to your security system, something that gives you notification that it's gone off, kind of a safety alert scenario there. But the cost is not as high as people think it is. I have honestly, nearly every build I do, they probably spend more upgrading their countertops than they would paying for a fire sprinkler system. So cost should not be a hurdle. I realize the smaller a home is, the kind of larger that cost may impact the budget. But I think when you're getting up to doing nice custom homes, the cost shouldn't be too big of a factor to consider and, might be something you should really think about. Now I want to talk about the myths or the bad information that prevents so many people from even considering fire sprinkler systems. With the number one being, if one head goes off, they all go off and your house is ruined. Even if you had a small smoke issue or a fire or something like that, the whole house is ruined. Well, that is not true. Let's bust that myth right now. The way these systems are designed, they are not like fire smoke alarms. So when it comes to smoke alarms, we understand that in these modern homes, they're wired together. And if one goes off in this room, they're going to go off throughout the house, including the other side of the house. And that's something you want with a smoke detector. You want to be alerted that there may be a fire, there may be something happening on the other side of the house where you are not. But of course, what we don't want is something happening on this side of the house, the sprinklers go off everywhere and ruin everything in the house. As much as we love water, it's not great when it comes to interior things like furniture and flooring and pretty much everything, right? So the way these are designed is, let me see if I can show it, right there is a sprinkler head. These are generally covering about a 12-foot diameter of spray. There's actually 2 in this bedroom to cover the whole room. And the way these are designed is that they are single use or single activation only. They are activated by heat. So they have 2 forms that can be used. They either can have a glass bulb with a liquid in it that is sensitive to heat, or a metal that kind of degrades and breaks off at a certain heat temperature. And so what happens is if you've got a fire, let's say we had a fire happening right underneath this sprinkler head, of course, fire is hot, pushes the heat up. Between 135 and 165 degrees, that glass bulb will break, it will release the valve, the head will start flowing water, and it will start working in this area only. Maybe if it's hot enough, the other head in this bedroom comes on if it's necessary. And that alone is fighting the fire in this area. The rest of these heads do not turn on in the house. So, biggest myth I've ever heard, I used to believe it myself. I think we all think that because that is what smoke detectors do, but that is not what residential fire sprinkler heads do. Okay, another myth that kind of goes hand in hand with they all turn on at the same time is that they're easily activated, that they are activated by our kitchen smoke. We're in there and we burn a meatloaf or something in the oven, we've opened up the oven, smoke's going everywhere. Oh my gosh, we're gonna trigger our sprinkler alarms and ruin our house. They are not triggered by smoke. As I just said, they are only triggered by heat. So we could have smoke underneath this head going all day long, and if it's not hot and doesn't take it to that threshold it needs to go to turn on, it will not turn on. So regular smoke from the kitchen and things like that will not trigger your fire sprinkler system. Another myth is that sprinkler systems commonly leak or are accidentally activated. This is not true. They say that happening, the odds are about 1 in 16 million, and that the sprinkler systems are as reliable, if not better, than household plumbing. So that should not be something that prevents you from having a sprinkler system. Another myth, maybe it's a bigger fear, is that fire sprinkler systems will freeze, will break and flood a house. Now, let me say that any plumbing can freeze in the right conditions or maybe the wrong conditions. I do know somebody that had a fire sprinkler system freeze and leak because it was a house they were not in. We had the infamous Snowmageddon of 2021. I think their house probably, like a lot of them, didn't have power, so therefore it didn't have heat. And you kind of had the worst case scenario happen. Keep in mind that same thing can happen with the plumbing itself. Plumbing lines that are on exterior walls can freeze, they can burst. So it is not something that is 100% foolproof, but in a normal installation, a normal conditioned house, that should not be something to worry about. And just like plumbing, there is a way to turn it off. So I'm standing behind all of our plumbing and our sprinkler, and we have valves right here to be able to turn off the sprinkler system should it be activated or freeze and break and be running. One thing I do recommend is the sprinkler system be wired up to the alarm system of the home, so if it runs and you're not home, you know it's running, okay? Either that means something has broken and is leaking, or there's a fire at your house. Either way, you wanna know that's happening. We put shutoffs in our water. Let me show you our water here. What we've got is the water is coming up into the house. This is going straight up to our water supply, and we have a main shutoff here. Of course, you got your water meter out at the street, but this would turn off water to the whole entire house. In this house, we then split to 2 separate recirculating systems, each with their own shutoffs. But down here, you see it split off and go to the fire sprinkler system. You don't want a shutoff that can turn everything off down there. You want to be able to turn off your fire sprinkler independently. But you have that here. So if something ever happened, if you were in the home and there was some type of leak happening, you have the ability to shut it off quickly. Then probably one of the last things I hear from people, whether it's a myth or just something they think, is that in this day and age when we all want everything to look gorgeous and we're building these expensive homes, those things are ugly. I don't want to see those things. Well, right now I'm walking a house in the rough end stage and we have these little red and green caps on top of the sprinkler heads. But when all is said and done, they have a flush metal plate that essentially disappears into the ceiling and is about as unobtrusive as could possibly be. So they aren't a gaudy thing that you're going to have to be looking at all the time. So as a builder, I've had several things, installs, products throughout the years that I have evolved my thinking on. There used to be a time I really didn't like tankless water heaters. They had some issues, whatnot. These days, I love them. I think I went from an opponent to a proponent. And I am going through that same type of evolution with fire sprinkler systems in houses. I think I had the mindset, because I didn't do many of them, that they were super expensive. That if one head went off, they all went off and ruined your house. all these myths that are out there, I probably believed some of them because I didn't have a lot of experience with them. Now that we're doing more and more of these, and I've been thinking more about what they do, it's almost a no-brainer in some ways. I mean, what is the one thing we all have fears about? Our house burning. Obviously, lots of people lose their lives throughout the year in the United States due to house fires, and even if you come out unscathed, you could lose everything in your house. Why not have something that doesn't cost a crazy amount of money, that if you're gone and a fire starts, it's going to be put out? Did you know they say that the one activated sprinkler head puts out 80% of the fires that happen? So just the fact that it is designed to start spraying water where the fire is actually happening helps extinguish that fire quickly and not let it spread. And the reality is fires do happen. And if you can have something that doesn't even cost as much as a nice countertop upgrade, that can prevent your house from burning down, that can save your family, I actually think it's worth it. I think I have evolved to the point that as I get new customers, even if the fire sprinkler systems are not mandated by the city, I'm going to talk to the customers about doing them because I think, or I can't think of another safety feature that is more valuable. The smoke detectors are nice. They're letting us know that something's going on, but they're not fire sprinkler systems. So if you are thinking about building a new house, you might talk to your builder about this. Now, there are certain situations where putting a fire sprinkler in your house is problematic. We have a city water meter, a city water supply here. We're able to do the 1-inch line and do everything we need to supply this house. When you are in scenarios where you have a private water well or some other situation where you may not be able to get enough water or enough pressure, you could have a problem doing this. So I'm not saying these can be done in every home out there. They could require a significant, I'll call it infrastructure upgrade beyond just the cost of doing it in the house. If you had a water well, you may need a big storage tank and a certain level of pump. So it may not be feasible for everybody. But if you are in an area with city water where you can do this, I think it is something you should seriously think about. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope it helped. I'll see you in the next one.